Sehr geehrte Damen und Herren, ich darf Sie sehr herzlich begrüßen zur heutigen Ringvorlesung Lernen, Lehren, Forschen bei uns hier an der Pädagogischen Hochschule Steiermark. Es ist ein ganz neues Fortbildungsformat der Pädagogischen Hochschule Steiermark, an dem 4 Institute mitwirken, und zwar das Institut für Bildungswissenschaften, jenes für Diversität und Internationales, Educational Governance sowie das Institut für Praxislehre und Praxisforschung. Die heutige dritte Vorlesung im Rahmen dieser Ringvorlesungsreihe wird vom Institut für Diversität und Internationales organisiert und läuft unter dem Motto Diversität als Strategie. Wir laden nun bereits seit 4 Jahren immer wieder nationale und internationale Expertinnen ein, Vorträge zu aktuellen Themen der Mehrsprachigkeit, der kulturreflexiven Bildung, zu Migration und Flucht zu gestalten und mit uns und mit Ihnen in den Dialog zu treten. Ich freue mich ganz besonders, dass wir heute eine internationale Expertin der Universität Ljubljana gewinnen konnten, Frau Doktorin Karmen Mlinar. Bevor ich Sie noch etwas genauer vorstelle heute, ein organisatorischer Hinweis. Unter dem YouTube-Video, das Sie gerade sehen, finden Sie eine Sammlung von Links. Insgesamt sind das hier 8 Links, die Sie sehen sollten. Und während des Vortrages wird Sie Frau Dr. Mlinar darauf hinweisen, wann Sie welchen Link anklicken sollen. Außerdem, nachdem das heute eine ausschließliche Online-Veranstaltung ist, haben wir für Sie die Möglichkeit geschaffen, dass Sie mit uns auch in den Dialog, mit der Referentin in den Dialog treten können. Sie können während des Vortrages Fragen stellen, die dann im Anschluss von der Vortragenden nach so circa 60 Minuten Vortrag beantwortet werden. Das erfolgt über tweetback.de und dazu wird die Moderatorin dieses Tools, meine Kollegin Sabine Juhart, ein paar Worte sagen.
So, herzlich guten Abend auch von meiner Seite. Und zwar tweetback.de ist ganz ein einfaches Tool. Der Herr Kolleritsch blendet das gleich ein. Es heißt eben tweetback.de und dann so einen Slash. Und mit der Nummer PA Paula Anton 8 Siegfried PA 8S kommen Sie direkt zu diesem Tool. Sie müssen sich nicht anmelden, es geht einfach die Session los. Und Sie können sofort in den Chat schreiben. Und ich bitte all jene, die eine Bestätigung haben möchten, dass sie an der Fortbildung teilgenommen haben, bitte ich wirklich, es kann auch nur ich sehen, das ist nicht öffentlich, sondern ich habe das moderiert eingeschaltet, bitte schreiben Sie Ihren vollständigen Namen hinein, damit ich weiß, wer eine Bestätigung im Anschluss haben möchte. Aber ich bitte Sie auch wirklich Fragen zu stellen, sich daran zu beteiligen. Im Anschluss an den Vortrag haben wir dann Zeit, Ihre brennenden Fragen zu beantworten. Danke vielmals.
Ja, ich freue mich nun ganz besonders, die heutige Referentin, Frau Doktorin Karmen Mlinar, vorstellen zu dürfen. Sie referiert heute zum Thema Respecting the Other as Different, Developing an Anti-Bias School Ethos. Since this lecture is in English today, the introduction of Karmen Mlinar will also be in English now. Dr. Karmen Mlinar is a tenured researcher and lecturer of theory of education at the Department of Education Sciences at the Faculty of Education at the University of Ljubljana in Slovenia. She has extensive teaching experience in teacher education and multiple pedagogical study majors, as well as first-hand experiences working in school. Her research areas are migration pedagogy, intercultural education, anti-bias education, education and social inequality, as well as inclusion. She's got a diploma of academic higher education in pedagogy and in Italian language and literature. She's got a doctorate in the scientific area of educational sciences and the education of teachers. Her doctorate was focused on the inclusion of migrant children in the Slovenian primary school and was carried out in an extensive mixed method study about pupils' and teachers' attitudes towards people of ethnic background different than theirs. Based on analysis of the issues related to multiculturalism and the large-scale data collection, she developed guidelines for the educational work in schools, focused on the development of respectful relationships to the others. For the implementation of the guidelines, she carried out a 6-month participatory qualitative study in a primary school, in which she closely collaborated with the school principal and with teams of teachers. This research project increased her capability of being a theory-practice bridge. So, dear Dr. Karmen Mlinar, we are now very much looking forward to your findings, elaborations, and conclusion. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much for the nice presentation. Hello to all of you, even if in a virtual world, we can say. As Susan already mentioned, my topic will be related to the development of an anti-bias school ethos as a way to develop respect of the other as different. What I will talk about today. First of all, I would like to talk about what does it mean to be different in today's society. What does it mean to be different in today's school? And in relation to that, we will talk about the main approaches to diversity, why to develop an anti-bias school ethos. Within that, how to develop it, what is the role of teachers, what we need to consider as teachers, and finally, I will present some concrete examples of activities that were carried out in a Slovenian primary school, some of them under my guidance, some of them with my collaboration. So let's begin. So, being different in today's society, what does that mean? What is normal, what is normality, what is a norm in our society, and what is considered as different? Let's just see one example. For example, let's see this picture. A pretty nice, feminine, normal, accepted woman. And let's have a look on her. She is a Kayan woman living on the border between Myanmar and Thailand. And as you can see, has a specific thing on her neck. And that's what women in that tribe do. For them, being beautiful means to have a long neck. Or let's see another example from the tribe in the Chin province of, again, Myanmar. I don't know if you see it well, but it is a woman with a lot of tattoos on her face. Again, something that for us is considered different, and for them is considered beautiful, it's considered a norm, it's considered normality. Or that example, that is stronger for us, I guess. That is a woman from the Mursi tribe in Ethiopia. And for them, being beautiful means to have a disc on the bottom lip, as you can see. That for us is different, maybe weird, maybe we could even say, why are they doing that to themselves? But again, to them, that's normality. That means that what is normal, what is normality, what is norm is always related to the culture we are living in, to the society we are living in. But in our society, being different, being one of those women and not the first one that I showed you, is usually related to something negative. Why? Because difference always implies a norm, as I mentioned. So you can talk about being different only when you know what is normal, what is a norm, what is normality. And who defines the norm? The norm is defined by the majority. So the majority decides what is accepted, what is good, what is welcome, desired, and correct. And if we think about our society, when I say our society, I mean Western, European, democratic, at least on the paper, society. And when we think about what we think and do with anyone who is different than what we believe is norm, we can say and see that discrimination is very much present. I would like to go through some examples with you. So here you are, first asked to click on the first link under the video. And if you click on it, you will see an article from the Insider talking about the case of Vanessa Nakate. She's an Ugandan climate change activist. And she participated with the more known Greta to the World Economic Forum in Davos, and the Associated Press cropped her out from a photo taken there. Of course, she was shocked. She made a YouTube video. She said that it was actually the first time in her life that she understood what does it mean to be a victim of racism. And the Associated Press then apologized, but that was it. Why they decided to cut her out, nobody actually knows. We still, as far as I know, don't have a clear answer to that. Or let's see another example. You can click on the second link. That is also very recent. When it was official that England is going out from the European Union, so when Brexit was official, something strange happened in Norwich. So people found printed posters on their doors on all 15 floors of Winchester Tower, saying that Queen's English is the spoken tongue here. We finally get our great country back. So basically saying that everyone who doesn't speak English, who is an immigrant, is not welcome anymore in the New England. And a recent example that connects both mine and my country, Slovenia, and Austria, my new country. Something that happened now in October with all the restrictions. A police officer on the border basically wrote that since Austrians cannot move freely, also Yugos cannot do that. I hope you have a negative opinion about that. So, I just mentioned 3 examples, but there are plenty of them. I'm sure that every one of you can recall at least one example. And when we see all of that, and when we are in the field of education, teacher education, pupil education, children education, we very often say that we should be more tolerant to the other. We should tolerate differences. Why are we not more tolerant? But I would like to spend a few words about tolerance. What does that mean? What does it mean being tolerant towards the other? If you see the etymology of the word, you can see that every time we say that we have to be tolerant to the other, we are basically saying that we have to suffer the other. Would you say to your child, you have to suffer the Muslim or black child near you? You will not say that, I hope. But you will probably say, tolerate him. He's as good as you. Just tolerate him. Be tolerant towards their practices, towards their mentality, their way of living, or whatsoever. So when we try to tolerate the other or to point out how that concept is important, we basically just reinforce the power relations between majority and minorities. Because, as I mentioned before, the majority is the one deciding what should be tolerated or who should be tolerated. This is why today, and I would really much like that in general in society, we would hear more about respect towards the other. Why? Because respecting the other means that we need the other to be near us, that we want to be in close relationships with him, that we want to learn from the other, that we want to be in a relationship with the other no matter his or her background. And only respect will eventually lead us to the real coexistence, which means to the adaptation of our actions and life to the other. And of course, that's a mutual process. If I can just give you an example, very often we hear, I respect Romani. I respect them. I respect their way of living. But I would not like to have them as neighbors. That is basically the difference between tolerating and respecting the other. And what does it mean being different in today's school? I will be more focused, of course, on the ethnic minorities because that's my field of expertise, but everything I will say, I want you to know it should and can be applied on every minority in our society and in the school. So let's see first what the systemic level is showing us. I analyzed the documents that are treating the integration/inclusion of different minorities in the Slovenian school system. But if you read documents on the international level, you will find out basically the same or very similar things. The documents, if you analyze their content, are oriented mainly towards the adaptation, if not assimilation, to the majority system. So what we expect from minorities is to assimilate, to, as soon as possible, take the norms, the values of the majority, and they will be accepted. And the maximum that is offered to them is the possibility to maintain their ethnic identity, but not to develop it. And that's a very big difference. So we can say we have integration, which means we want the others to adapt to us. Okay, so they can integrate, but if they accept what we think is normal, is right. We are far, I dare to say we are far from inclusion, because inclusion, I'm always talking on a general level, of course. Inclusion means that we adapt to the other adapts to us, and our relationship is always in a process of change, and in a process of recognition of differences and similarities between us. So for now, what we can say that the systemic level is still separating us from them from us, and I hope eventually we will get to the point where we will talk about all of us. practical level, if you see studies that are carried out in schools and are analyzing the relationship between minorities and majority, you can find out that there is a big difference in the status of different minorities. Usually the ones who come from developed countries, rich countries, are much more accepted than the ones that are coming from the third world or undeveloped world, as we call it. And the development, in relation to that, of course, the development and maintenance of the ethnic identity is not offered to all. And then I was searching for studies where I could get a direct answer to the question, what about the respect towards specific ethnicities? And I figured out that most of the studies are just asking pupils or teachers about their attitudes towards immigrants. So what I said, okay, we have to carry out a new study where we would find out the direct answer to the question how much pupils or teachers respect specific ethnicities. And when I carried out that study, I had a lot of goals. So today I will be focused just on one part of that study, namely to the attitudes of pupils and teachers towards different minorities. And I studied that through two dimensions. On one hand, I wanted to know what is their declared respect towards those ethnicities. I directly asked them how much you respect members of certain ethnicities. And the second dimension was the willingness to enter in close relationship with the other. That's what I call, as I mentioned before, real respect. So pupils were asked, would you be a friend of a person of a certain ethnicity? And teacher were asked, would you accept in your classroom a child from a certain ethnicity if you would have the possibility to choose that? I also wanted to see what is the opinion of teachers and pupils about the activities or anything that is going on in the school and is oriented towards the development of respectful relationship towards the other. The sample was quite big. I'm very happy with that. As you can see, almost 1,000 pupils and more than 1,000 pupils, and almost 200 primary school teachers. I would just like to say that in Slovenia, the primary school is a 9-year school. So from the first to the 9th grade, there are primary teachers. I mean, there are teachers in primary education. I hope I made it clear. So what are the main findings of that study? Unfortunately, we expected what happened, that pupils have the best attitude towards Slovenians, the English, Germans, and Croatians, and the worst attitude towards Romani and Albanians, who are in the entire society, not only in Slovenia, but if you see studies in Europe, the more marginalized groups. A very interesting thing was that we could see that the history is very visible in the attitudes of children. For example, this is the case of Albanian and Serbian pupils, the history between the two ethnicities. I think we all know what it is. And it was, I have to say, shocking to realize how much Albanian children have negative attitude towards Serbian and vice versa. We also found out that the declared respect of pupils is always higher than the willingness to enter in close relationship with the other, which means if you remember what I said before, I respect them, but I would not really like to have them as friends, at least not as much as I think I respect them. Another interesting thing was that pupils from the former Yugoslavia who declared themselves as as having an identity of different countries from the former Yugoslavia, they expressed the belief that, in comparison with the others, of course, that the school is not oriented enough towards the development of the ethnic identities of pupils. So they have the feeling that they don't have the possibility, as the others, to develop their own ethnic identity. The teachers' attitudes were very good, actually. That's a very positive thing. But as always in those kind of studies, there is a question of the influence of social expectations towards the teachers, especially if we consider that their attitude towards Romani and Albanians is a little bit worse. Okay? So that tells us something. And what all of that tells us? I think that we are not doing enough in our schools. We have a lot of projects. We have a lot of theories. We have a lot of things to say, but practice, as you saw now, is showing us that there are a lot of biases, and there is a hierarchy of more and less accepted ethnicities. We have a lot of approaches to diversity. I will talk today about the main 3 approaches. The first one is the multicultural approach. That is not a good one. I will tell you now why. The intercultural approach is a very good approach, but it needs something more. The anti-bias approach, which is an approach that is not that known in the European context, is the one that I believe we should work on and we should reinforce and develop. Why? Let's see first to the multicultural approach. As you know, what does it mean, what multiculturality is about? It means that in the same territory or in the same school, you have children with different ethnic backgrounds. Okay, they are all together, but we are not doing a lot to reinforce positive relationship between them. We are just there, and that's it. Which means that the multicultural approach actually reinforces, or at least keeps, the power relations between majority and minority, and it's more focused, oriented into the tolerance of the other. They can be there, just don't mix with us. Intercultural approach, that is a very good approach. We should obviously do everything to develop an intercultural ethos in schools. Why? Because it gives equal voice to the minorities. It is oriented towards the development of a positive relationship, into the learning from each other, into the adaptation of each other to each other. But, there is an important but. Let's think, okay, especially in relation to what I said before. Do all the minorities in society have equal opportunities? I guess it's clear that it's not the case. Is difference considered a value or an obstacle or something negative in our society? I think it's clear that it's mostly an obstacle. What does that mean? That the intercultural approach, even if it has a great goal, it neglects the reality in which we are living. It neglects the fact that we are not equal, that there are power relations, and that opportunities given to the majority are very much different in comparison to the ones offered or given to the minorities. And this is why I will today present you the anti-bias approach and why I believe that should be the basis to build an intercultural ethos. So the anti-bias approach is built on the presumption that in society we are not equal, that there are differences, that there are injustices, that there is discrimination. So the starting point of that approach is the real situation. So let's see where we are and let's change that, let's build on that, let's destroy that, and then we can talk about equal voices of everyone. This approach has 4 goals. I will not go in details into every goal. But what I want to say is that all those goals are oriented towards things that are not happening right now, at least not as much as we would like to. For example, we should develop and do everything to make possible the development of the ethnic identity of different children. And that's something that I showed you before. My study was about, and show that, for example, the pupils from the former Yugoslavia countries think that they don't have the possibility, at least not as much as they would like to develop their own ethnic identity, which means that the first goal in that case is not achieved. Maybe we don't even try to achieve it. Then it is important that children develop a positive relationship towards diversity, so a positive relationship towards ourselves and towards the other. Then the anti-bias approach gives a very strong importance to justice. So we should educate children to recognize injustices, to understand what is going on. We shouldn't hide bad things from them. We shouldn't present them the world as only rainbows and sunshine and unicorns. This is not the reality. We wish it would be. I really hope one day we will achieve that, but for now, it's not. And we should reinforce already in children the desire to change that, to change inequalities, to change injustices. So we should reinforce the thinking already in children that they should do everything possible to change the unjust world where they are currently living. The school, based on an anti-bias approach, or a school with an anti-bias ethos, should be a school obviously oriented into the coexistence, where all children have voice no matter their background. So we can all agree with that, and that's obviously a school with an intercultural ethos. To make that possible, we should first express a clear critique of the inequalities in society, as I mentioned before, develop critical thinking in pupils, and we should be oriented in an active approach towards inequalities, injustices. So developing first an anti-bias school ethos and build on that. What is an ethos? I think we all have in mind what that is, but I just wanted you to recall what that is. It basically includes spontaneous relationship in the classroom, in the school community, and for every person represents a moral attitude that guides us. Now let's go even more specifically in a school with an anti-bias ethos. As I already mentioned, it is a school which expresses a clear critic of inequalities in society. That's very important. It's a school which doesn't hide that from children. It's an active and activistically oriented school. And please don't understand activism in this case as something negative, which I figured out that very often my students are connecting that with something negative. It is not. Being activistic means fighting against injustices. So everyone who creates the school environment, from teachers to all the pedagogical and non-pedagogical staff, to pupils, should want and should be able to fight with isms of all forms, with biases of all forms and kind towards diversity. As already mentioned, we should really develop pupils' critical view on social reality. And the first step to start to develop such an ethos is to analyze critically what is going on in our school. So, does the school in any way reinforce the relations of power between minorities and majority, and inequalities, of course? So what we have to think about? Does the appearance of the school reflect the diversity of children or of the society? Are different religions, ethnicities, cultures visible in a school context? The visibility is very important because just at least on the formal, on the declarative level, show that we respect or we at least recognize differences, that we are not a homogeneous school, that there are a lot of different pupils coming from different backgrounds. And in doing that, we have to be careful. Just think about the posters that you have in your school. Think about the pictures that you have in your school. Are they reflecting the faces of different people, of different cultures, of different religions? Are those pictures stereotyped pictures? Do you, for example, represent a Muslim woman with a hijab that is at home, in the kitchen cooking, or is she in her office in front of a computer? So we have to be careful also not to reproduce stereotypes in the society. Do we always expect from pupils or from families a certain stereotyped behavior? For example, when you have school events, do you ask Bosnian mothers to prepare their typical dish? Do you ask Albanian's mother to prepare their typical dish? Do you expect from Romani girls to dance? Because, of course, if you're a Romani girl, you have to dance, you have to know to dance. Or if you have a girl from an Arabic country, you would suppose that she knows to do something else and not only the belly dance. So think about what are you expecting from them. What about the learning materials? Just think, did you ever go through the learning materials and critically analyze what are they communicating to different pupils from different backgrounds? Think about the power relations in movies, cartoons, books. For example, if you see managers, leaders in movies are mostly white men. And such materials are not an obstacle, are not necessarily something negative if you use them as a source to critically think about what are those materials communicating to us. If you analyze those materials, those movies, those books with children, you don't need to bring, for example, special journals like National Geographic to children and read anything written about any culture with them. Take everyday journals. Take, for example, catalogs. I will ask you now to open the link 3 and just go through that catalog. And give me just a second so I can click it too, and I will tell you exactly what to be. My link is not working. Okay. Doesn't matter. Just go through it. And you will see, it will be very clear for you. It's a catalog of toys. It's taken from Slovenia from 2017. And there you can see a girl surrounded with pink toys, surrounded with Barbies, with babies, everything obviously in pink. And then, because it is not clear apparently enough that for girls only pink color and pink toys are okay, the catalog, they wrote inside little girls for little girls. Or on another page is written for little mummies. Yeah? So obviously every girl needs to be a mother. And then you have another page with a boy playing with cars, with boy toys. So bring that to in your classroom and analyze that. Why girls should have toys that are pink and why boys are not allowed to have that? Also, look also at the faces of those children in the catalogs. For example, the one that you have in front of you right now, there are only white children. Where are children from other ethnicities? Where are black children, Asian children? So you don't see them in there. And on the implicit level, that's communicating to children, to us as parents or as a society, what is normal and what is not. What we believe is our society, and I mean, who is a part of our society and who is not a part of our society. In Europe, again, if you see different analyses, you will figure out that especially history, geography, and social sciences textbooks are very often Europo or ethnocentric. They very often include a negative image of non-Europeans. You can also find a lot of racism in them. Even in Slovenia, for example, we found out that textbooks for geography and history presents a lot of stereotyped images of Africa and Africans. So Africans, I will repeat that word. Who is an African? Africa is an enormous continent with so many different populations. You have white people living in Africa, black people, you have Muslim countries, you have Christian Catholics beliefs, and so on and so on. So what does it mean when we, as teachers, say to children, look at the Africans, look how poor they are in Africa, as is the case in those textbooks. Then I would like you again to click on the next links. Let's see first link number 4. It is a Hong Kong textbook where that page has a very interesting title, Living in Harmony, like ethnic harmony. But you can see there a picture of a Filipino girl that is a domestic helper. Yeah? So she is in Hong Kong as a domestic helper. Like there is nothing else she can do. Then click please on the next link number 5. It's from an Italian school book. So we don't need to go in Hong Kong to see that. It's enough to check our textbooks, or as I mentioned now, Italian. What is going on here? You can see a story, the ones who understand Italian, but for the rest I will briefly explain you. This is a story of a white Italian boy meeting a black girl in a playground. This girl has no word in the whole story. She says nothing in the whole story. But the boy asks her when he sees her, "Are you dirty or are you black?" And when she comes closer to him, he says, "Oh, you are black." And the girls then run away. So, what kind of information are we giving to the children? We are basically connecting black color with dirt. Let's see another example on link number 6. Again, an Italian textbook. And you see a lot of kids on that image, see the picture with all the children, and it's about the first day that they come back to school. And white children are talking about, actually all children are talking about what they would like to do this year. And there is one girl saying, or a boy, I don't remember exactly now, but is saying, "Oh, this year I would like to play a lot, I would like to go a lot around." And there you can see a black boy who is saying in a very weird Italian way, I will try to paraphrase that in English, he's saying something like, "This year I Italian learning will." Okay? Again, think what kind of information are we giving to the children? And in the same article that you have in front of you, you see another page, another picture of a classroom. The teacher is introducing a new pupil in the classroom. It's a black boy. And everyone, the Italian pupils, are laughing to him because he's speaking weirdly, because he's different. And again, the normality in this book is that if you're black, you don't speak Italian, you are weird, and we make fun of you. And even if the teacher in this concrete page is saying that that's not right what they are doing, the message stays. And as Professor Guido Saraceni said, the reading is legitimating the behavior of children. So if children read and see that, and take that as a normality, it's very hard to expect from them a different behavior. It's very hard to expect from them that when they will get a black boy in the classroom, will not look at him weirdly, or will not take him at something different in a negative way. Because we are not in those textbooks understanding that if you have black skin or if you have a different shape of your eyes, it doesn't mean that you are not born in Italy or in any other country. So we are, with our stereotypes, even when we have a good goal or when we think that we are doing something good, just reinforcing stereotypes and prejudices. Okay, let's go further. What we should think then? Are in the school curriculum or mission statement use stereotype and generalized terms and concepts that are expressing deficiencies? For example, I will give you concrete examples that I found. Children with special needs cannot do that and that, this is why. Or for example, since Romani are living in a different environment, they have to shower in the school before entering in the classroom. Yes, that's a real situation. Check your mission statement, check your curriculum. What kind of words are being used in there? As I mentioned before, it is different if you say we have to be tolerant or if we are doing everything to respect the others. Check the terms. Are the words, the terms, only positive when we talk about diversity? For example, racism, discrimination are words that are just disappearing from the public space and are being replaced with positive words. You would say, yeah, but that's good. No, it's not. Do you know why it's not? Because if we don't write those words, it doesn't mean that the situation is not there. If we, instead of saying our school has zero tolerance for racism, if we instead of that say we are all living in a harmony, it sounds great, but it gives a different message. It gives a message of everything is fine, we're all friends, everything is good. There is not even a thought about, as mentioned before, inequalities and injustices. So use also negative words, not only positive, and the negative words that you use in that context that I mentioned. So we fight against racism. We have zero tolerance for discrimination and so on. What is the role of teachers? Avoid words, images, situations that create a feeling that all of or most members of a certain group community are the same. Example, Romani girls are excellent dancers. No, not all of them. Or, oh, all the Arabic girls know to belly dance. No, it's not the case. Or a concrete example, let's talk now about gay or lesbian lifestyle. What's that? They don't have their own lifestyle. They're human beings as we are. Yeah? So I'm now separating to make things clear, of course. We are so much focused into the separation of them and us that we have the need, even when you talk about normal things that are humanly common, like a lifestyle, even that we have to separate. Avoid qualifiers that reinforce stereotypes. What is a qualifier? It's an added information that we, I don't know, somehow have the need to express. Example, a group of intelligent Albanian students will visit our school. Why we need to say that they're intelligent? They're just Albanian students. They're coming from Albania. And how can you recognize if you use those qualifiers? Think if you would use the same word, the same adjective for people of your own religion, your own ethnicity. Would you, for example, say a group of intelligent students from Graz will visit our school? Probably not. Okay, so in that case, you have to think if you have implicit prejudices or stereotypes. The characteristics that define an identity or an ethnicity, whatever, use them only when it's necessary. I will again give you an example. Soraya Ali, a Muslim professor of chemistry, was promoted as full professor. Second example, Sekumadi Konde, the first black news anchor of the Slovenian national TV. What is the difference between those two statements? That the first one is wrong. It doesn't give you no important detail if you say that she is Muslim. She was just promoted as a full professor. In the second case, it is important to point out that he is the first black anchor. Or, for example, Barack Obama, the first black president of the USA. In that case, you will obviously emphasize that characteristic. In the first case, you don't need that. Then we have to be careful not to use a language that could have questionable ethnic connotations. I will use the example that I gave you in the beginning, Yugos. Maybe for you it's not offensive, or when you say Balkans, people from the Balkans. But for us that are coming from there, the story is quite different. Verified media, books, cartoons represent all the group in an equal way. That is slide, if I remember correctly, number 7. It's a slide about took from the U.S. Kannenberg, yes, association, and that's a long PDF. I suggest you to go through that and to read it, because it is actually a report of inequality into 1,200 most popular films from 2007 to 2018. And if you will go through that, no, my link doesn't work here. Just a second. I would like to show you just a very interesting graphic on page, sorry, let me find it. Yeah, on page 2, in the beginning of page 2. Stereotypically sexy, the plight of women and girls in film. And just see the differences between the male and female characters. So how much just women or even girls from 13 to 20 years old are represented, not only in a stereotypical way, but in my opinion, even in a dangerous, sexualized way. So again, what kind of information are children getting from movies, especially when we also as adults and educators do not realize that? Or if you scroll down on page 3, on the bottom of the page, you will see the table of the inclusion crisis in film, and you will see the difference between the speaking characters in movies and the US population. And you can see that the most underrepresented characters are people with disabilities, are women, Latino characters, and people from the LGBTQ+ community. So when you will have time, I really suggest you to go through that. It's a very interesting study. So what do we need to consider as teacher educators when we know all of that? And what are, in regard to that, our biggest mistakes? Children see colors. Don't think they don't see them. I often hear from my students, but for them, everyone is the same. No, it's not. They see if a girl is black. They see if a pupil have eyes of a different shape. The majority of them notice differences. So we have to offer explanation to children. If they ask you why that boy has different skin, please don't tell them he's made of chocolate. Real situation from a Slovenian kindergarten. We have to talk about differences. It is the belief of many teachers that if we will talk about differences, we will just reinforce prejudices, or we will even develop prejudices. But being aware of differences doesn't mean that we will reinforce or develop a negative attitude towards differences. We have a problem with that, not children. Children have questions, they want to be listened, they want to ask. We just have to listen to them and answer them. If we will avoid such topics, if we will avoid talking about differences, we will be the ones reinforcing prejudices, stereotypes that a lot of children bring from home or from society or from movies or from cartoons. In that regard, it is not enough to talk about similarities. Of course, we have to talk about both, but not only about similarities. Often when I'm in the kindergartens or in primary schools, I hear, look, he's doing that like you're doing it. He's just like you, for children coming from a minority group. But these words, what we're communicating to children with that is that those children are good only because they look like us. It means that children should accept them because they look like them. So again, we are oriented, even with our words, in the assimilation and not into the coexistence with differences. Again, I would like to give you an example that happened in 2019 in California. As you can see, Senator Holly Mitchell said, "I have heard far too many reports of black children humiliated and sent home from school because their natural hair was deemed unruly or a distraction to others." The hair was a distraction to others. It was too different. So what they did, you can click on the last link. Okay, hope you did that. So here you can see that California became, in 2019, the first state to ban discrimination based on natural hairstyles. Can you imagine what we have to do in the age of, how can I say, the democracy, openness? We have to make such a law. And as she said, this law protects the right of Black Californians to choose to wear their hair in its natural form without pressure to conform to Eurocentric norms. What I said before, assimilation and not acceptance of differences. And then we have to make such silly laws that shouldn't be even needed in today's society, but apparently they are. It is never too late nor too early to talk about differences, or obviously the positive attitude respect towards differences. Children in kindergarten decide if they will play with somebody or not in relation to how this child looks like. For example, we had a case a few years ago of a group of long-haired girls that marginalized a short-haired girl. And the same happens with the skin color and other characteristics. This is why I'm always saying it is so important that we educate also preschool educators, not only primary teachers or high school teachers. We should begin as early as possible with that. And we have to work on ourselves. We are often, especially the academia world, very judgmental towards teachers. We expect from them that they will be without prejudices, that they will be without stereotypes, but they are human beings. We are all human beings. We all have stereotypes, prejudices, and it is very important that as educators, as teachers, we work on them and reflect what words are we using. Are our actions reflected in our, are our actions reflecting our words? And you don't need to do a lot. Diversity shouldn't be just a part of a special subject or special situation, special events. It should be a part of everyday life. I will give you a few examples very soon. And mostly, if we want children to be active and activistic, we should be the first one being like that. If you will be quiet when you will see an injustice, if you will see injustices, then how can you expect that children will react? So be an example, even if it means that you will fight with your colleagues, doesn't matter. The message you're sending to the children is more important than that. And let me go now to concrete examples that were of activities that were carried out in a primary school in Slovenia. I will just briefly go through them. The first one, workshops about implicit prejudices towards Romani. Or you can obviously use the same activity for any other group that is stereotyped in our society. So in the sixth grade, pupils should read, according to the curriculum, a story called, translated to Scarlet Rose, where the main character is a gypsy girl, Esmeralda. It is very good to choose a book with a provocative title or a book where you can find provocative words, like gypsy. And when we were talking with the teacher, she said, yeah, but you know, we don't have Romani in our school. Our children are very open to diversity. You will see they have no prejudices. But still, we decided that before reading that book, we will find out whether pupils have prejudices towards gypsies. Even if, as I said, the teacher believed that it will not be the case, because they have no Romani in the school. So what we did? She asked pupils to write on Post-its the association on the word, their association or associations on the word gypsy. And then when they finished, one of the pupils collected those Post-its, and together the pupils decided which words are positive, neutral, or negative. I will not translate everything, but I would like you to see the results. The first column, positive words. 2 kids connected the word gypsy with Romani. One said they sing a lot and they are happy people. Then you have some neutral words, for example, they are living in big groups, I have no clue about them, and so on and so on. And look at the negative words. Look how many negative associations they had. And some of the negative associations are really bad. Like, they are idiots. They are horrible. They steal because they have nothing theirs. They are dirty. They are poor. They are killers. Those are the words of children from the 6th grade in a school where there are no Romani. Now imagine what would happen in another school. So we talked a lot with the teacher, what to do, how then to talk about prejudices if they come out. And it was very important that the teacher had always in her mind that she shouldn't judge the prejudices, that she shouldn't judge pupils and their prejudices. She was stimulating the self-analysis. I will give you a few questions that she used. For example, why do we think about Romani like that? Why we have so many negative associations? She asked them, do you know any Romani? And you have no idea how many children in that classroom actually knew a Romani child. And when the teacher asked, but are your friends like that? No, they are not. They're an exception. So for them, their friends were an exception. And they, at the end, didn't even know themselves why they have so many negative associations. Then they figured out that they have really no clue about Romani culture. And the teacher presented them the Romani culture, but not in a stereotyped way. It would be much better if you would have more time that children would make that research by themselves. But this activity was carried out within something that they would do anyway within the curriculum. I just wanted to show you that you don't need to do something special. Just take as a resource what you already have. Just made it better in a way to work on the, not only on the cognitive part, but also on the personal part of children. What pupils and the teacher afterwards said. Can you imagine that one of the children felt so proud after that he said that he also has gypsy roots, that the father of his grandfather was a gypsy. Nobody knew that. He never said that to nobody, and at one point he was proud of that. Then one child even connected what we think and do with them with what is happening today with the refugees. The teacher was extremely surprised afterwards, and when we talked months later, she said it is unbelievable that all what they learned and all those changes that happened within them, they still carry that with them. So little thing, short time, enormous changes. Then we did a declaration of the respect of diversities in the school. The class representatives from the 2nd and 9th grade decided together with me and a coordinating teacher that we will do a declaration of respect towards diversities. It was very important that pupils did it by themselves, and that the declaration would not be oriented towards the we are doing that for you, we Slovenians are accepting you different people, but it would be oriented in we together, all of us. Few words of pupils and teachers. The main thing that I would like to point out here is that they said that they need to have a word. For them, it was the most important that they were listened and that actually what they did was important. And they wrote down that declaration. And then they said, hey, wait, this declaration is for all of us. So we have to make sure that everybody will understand it. So they decided that they will draw it. So it would be easy to understand it for pupils from the first grade, and it will be easy to understand it for people that don't understand Slovenian language. And the first version was really oriented into we are doing that for you. We will help foreigners. We will give them, for example, we will write in our publication, in our statement that that they can have a vegetarian menu and so on. And then we changed it really into we all together. And the teacher said how important it was to have me there as a critical friend, because it is very important that teacher have somebody who can talk with them and who can see with an objective eye the things that should or may be changed. Another thing, we put a map in the school aula, map of the world, which marked all countries where pupils come from, and around the map, pupils themselves from the 5th to the 9th grade, together prepared posters, and they decided what characteristics they will put on those posters of a culture, of a religion, of the country itself related to a certain country. Everything was in pupils' hands. So the teacher was just the coordinator. That is very important that we really give a word to them. And again, something from the evaluation, teachers said they were shocked how that activity connected them. They heard pupils that before didn't talk to each other, that weren't friends. Pupils from the 5th grade talking to pupils from the 9th grade about Uganda, about Congo. They were exchanging information that connected them on a level that teachers didn't think it would be ever possible. And the last activity I would like to present you, and then I will finish. It was a New Year event characterized by interculturalism, respect, and acceptance. So the school didn't have a Christmas event, but a New Year event, including all the cultures, ethnicities present in school. The whole project was in the hands of pupils. They decided themselves, people from different countries, religions again, ethnicities, what they will do, what they would like to present. All the songs were not Christmas songs. They were songs about friendship, about connections. For example, Love is All Around, We Are the World. And I can say I was there, it was incredible. You could really feel on your skin the connection, the friendship, the respect. And it was very important that it wasn't an event for foreigners. It was the event of the whole school as a community of differences and similarities. So all the ethnicities, all the cultures were equally presented. That was the very important starting point. And I will say it again, the teachers were just coordinators. Things were in children's hands. Teachers said in the evaluation I did with them months later that this whole event, this whole process created an unbelievable climate in the school. The teachers felt the energy for so many months afterwards. And I would like to end my presentation with the words of a pupil from the 9th grade. I made an interview with them. He had a migratory experience. He came in Slovenia from China years ago. So I was having the interview with him, asking him about his experiences and so on. And at one point he mentioned that event. And he said that he will recite a poem in his language, in the Chinese language. And then he said, "It means so much to me that my language is respected. Before it was class 9X plus me, and now I'm a part of the class. I'm connected with them." A little thing, few minutes, he just read a poem in his language, meant the world to him. He became a part of the classroom just because teachers, the school gave him a word and gave him importance. So I would really like to end with that. Thank you. I hope I wasn't too long. No? Okay. So if you have any question, or if you would like to know more, if you would like me, for example, to tell you more, to present more in detail things to you, please just write me an email. I will be very glad to answer you or to present you more in detail everything you would like to know. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you so much. It's interesting to have a presentation in such a big aula with very important people that are filling the place, I have to say.
Yes, thank you very much. This was really a very interesting lecture for, I think, all of us. And as the chat also told me that there are some interesting or thank you remarks, some statements. One statement we have got. Many thanks for the impressive examples. I'm very surprised that these wrong and irritating messages are so prominent.
Yes, they are.
So this is one statement, but there's also a question. One question that you have already answered, but maybe you can say it again so that we all know the short version. One question was if you have any main ideas you would like to share for teaching at our university college, meaning that it is important to think about the difference between tolerance and respect, and what would be your ideas for the university? I mean, to teach. That's the first question, and the other one was, what do you think about empathy trainings for children?
Okay, so the first question. I have so many things I would like to say about that, and so many ideas actually. But I will answer just briefly. I think that the teacher education programs in general need a huge change. We are so much focused into giving our students knowledge about different fields that also we are forgetting how important it is for our students, on one hand, to work on themselves, and on the other hand, to give them the sensitivity, not competencies, or not only competencies, to transmit that to pupils. And I know that there are certain professors that are trying to do that, but I truly believe that we need, I would not even say a subject, but like a module for all students that will not be filled with exams and grades, but where they would be able to express their needs themselves, they would be able to work on themselves, and where they would also gain all the knowledge about that wrong concepts or weird concepts, or we should give them the possibility also to analyze all the textbooks that they will use, or they will certainly come out new books, but at least to analyze what we have here now, and to teach them what to search for, what to analyze, and how to go through that with pupils. And I think that is the main thing. And another thing that authors Lehren and Rice said, for example, we should also include in our teacher education programs parents. Not just academic staff telling students what they have to do, but let's invite parents to have lectures. parents, I mean, with a migratory background. What are their needs? What are their experiences? What they want from us as teachers? What are the main problems they are facing? We don't have that. And that is, for example, one of the things that we could do. Because just having role plays or fake situations that are played by students, that's not the same. It is something, but they should really go very much deep into all of the situations and problems that I told you before about. And again, critically analyze with them all those concepts and see what's happening. And the second question was about the empathy training for children. Okay, empathy is another interesting story for me, I have to say. I know that there are empathy trainings, I read about that, but I don't know very well how they are carried out. But empathy is another concept that needs to be reevaluated. For example, I don't talk only about empathy, but also about exotropy, which I don't know how many of you know the concept of exotropy. But if empathy tells you, try to put yourself in the shoes of the other, the exotropy tells you, yeah, but what if the shoes of the other doesn't suit me? What if they're too big or too small for me? What then? Yeah. So even with empathy, I have a love-hate relationship. I can, with the person who wrote that, if maybe you can write me an email and you can ask me more in detail what exactly are you interested in. But for that specific trainings, I don't know enough about that to be able to answer you in a quality way. It's okay.
Is this okay here? All the questions are obviously, there are no more questions. Let me take a quick look. Impressive examples.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And yes, empathy training you have already answered, which is really an interesting thing that you're saying, yes. And that's about it, yes. And I think that was a good thing that you said about the teaching at university level, which is, I think, a very important thing in the teacher education.
Yeah.
I personally have one question regarding this. These schools, was it only one school or are there more schools like this? Because to say the truth, from Austria, I'm really not sure if there something like this exists with a school ethos. Do you know about, is the school here doing that? I doubt it, actually, and it's a shame.
In that school, I carried that project. So with the principal, it was really a project carried there. It was a school that already works a lot with teachers, with pupils to develop a respect towards the other, because they have a lot of immigrant pupils. But that was something that was very new for them too. And as I said before, it was very important, and it is, in my opinion, very important to have a critical friend in the school. And that shouldn't be the counselor in the school, because he's there or she's there already for other needs of pupils and teachers. But to have a person, we have, for example, a program of inclusive pedagogy, like an inclusive pedagogue who would take care just of that. So not of specific children with specific special needs, but how to really create an inclusive and on a respect-based environment. But unfortunately, there is always a question of money, a question of effort, and a question of knowledge. As you said, how many of you ever thought about those things? How many principals are aware of what are the materials that we are working with, communicating to children. So it should really be a long and intense process that should be taken, that should be carried out in every single school. But firstly, on the academic level. So the new teachers would be able also to teach and present some new practices, important practices to the existing personnel in the school. Okay, thank you.
Well, one more question I have, the school books, are they old ones or new ones?
They are new ones. Those examples are actually, if you see the date of the article, is 2020. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, but the editor of the second book that we were talking about promised that in the restamp they will not have this example anymore. So at least something, but cases like that, I can show you 1 million of them. I just show you the ones that are very near to us. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
So much.
I think it was a very, very interesting lecture for all of us, and I hope you enjoyed it. Have a nice evening, and there's one more important thing about the next Ringvorlesung. I will switch to German now. Ein Terminaviso. Wir haben die nächste Ringvorlesung erst im Jänner, also 2021. Keine Ahnung, vielleicht wird sie schon in echt stattfinden, aber ich bezweifle es. Also stellen Sie sich wieder auf eine Online-Ringvorlesung ein, wahrscheinlich wieder so im Livestream. Und zwar das Institut für Educational Governance hat diesmal die Ringvorlesung, richtet nächstes Mal die Ringvorlesung aus. Es ist am 13. Jänner, wieder um 17 Uhr, wahrscheinlich wie gesagt im Livestream. Und die Ringvorlesung des Instituts für Educational Governance steht unter dem Motto Wagnis Verantwortung. Und diesmal wird es um das Thema gehen, Führung ist weiblich. Ein sehr interessantes, spannendes Thema. Es wird ein Mann, nämlich der Herr Regierungsrat Roman Scheuerer, und eine Frau, nämlich die steirische Unternehmerin des Jahres 2019, die Frau Julia Fandler, dort anwesend sein und wird zum Thema Führung ist weiblich sprechen. Also bitte merken Sie sich den Termin vor. Danke für Ihre Kommentare. Sie können auch noch in den Chat schreiben oder die Frau Mlinar beantwortet auch E-Mails. Und einen schönen Abend und noch ein gutes Durchkommen in dieser herausfordernden Zeit.
Thank you. Perfect.